Thank you for waiting. It's time to commence the press conference. First of all, I thank you very much for joining us. We saw a multitude of the media people. Sorry that we caused some inconvenience to you because of the arrangement of the meeting. Let me introduce myself. My name is Mori, in charge of public relations. First, I would like to invite the chair of the commission. Chair Kurokawa is going to explain about major findings after having heard from former Prime Minister Naoto Kan as today's witness. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we had 16 meetings of the Commission. I would like to briefly summarize the new findings. There will be some mistake as to details in the way I summarize, but please check the video. The witness at the time of accident, while the situation was evolving minute after minute, he actually made statements, and several important points were clarified. In communications with the Prime Minister Kang, the serious thought had to be made in the future how the communication would be, could be in the fluid situations. Before the accident actually took place, the nuclear power generation was promoted as national policy, so the major responsibility rests with the central government, he explained. And further, in general, with respect to the authorities given to the Prime Minister, he was never explained in detail about the authority of the Prime Minister when the nuclear accident took place. When it comes to overall disaster drills, in a question whether the witness was aware of the responsibility of Prime Minister as the head of the disaster countermeasure headquarters, and no, he was not, and there was not really full preparation against disaster. When the accident took place, he did all that he could, but the fact that evacuation turned out to be lasted over a long time, and also the fact that over a long time people have to be stay indoor in shelter. A prolongation of that evacuation, he felt really thought that was regrettable. And when it comes to the declaration of the emergency as per Article 15 of the law, there is no intention to deliberately postpone the issuance. So he said that there was no really disturbance to the activities of the headquarters due to the fact that it took a long time to issue the emergency. And NISA and NAIIC and fellow of TEPCO actually gave a lot of inputs. Didn't really give particular inputs to the Prime Minister, what if questions and what should be done. So that's why he actually thought that he should visit the site to grasp the situation better by himself. When it comes to the possibility of the reactor being critical, he didn't recognize that the criticality issue came because of the shifting from the freshwater to seawater. That was not his recognition. And when it comes to the message given by the Prime Minister, the resident office, he thought there was some confusions, as if the people from TEPCO stationed the Prime Minister's office voiced the opinions of Prime Minister's office. It was not the case, he said. And also seawater injection, there was some criticism that Prime Minister stopped injection of seawater. But actually, that was the remarks made by the people from the TEPCO. So that was the judgment of the people of TEPCO head office that the seawater be suspended, and that was not his intention. When it comes to the old pullout of TEPCO people from the site, vis-a-vis Mr. Yoshida, head of the plan, he said there were 2 occasions he conversed with Mr. Yoshida, sometime from evening to the night time of 12, although he didn't remember exact timing. At that time, Assistant Mr. Hosono was talking with Mr. Yoshida, and it turned out that the situations at the site was very serious, but Mr. Yoshida said that he could do more. That was the first occasion. And second occasion was that teleconference that the injection was conducted. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. On the first occasion, with Assistant Hosono, the situation was very serious, and and asked whether they could do more. Mr. Yoshida said they could do more. And on the 15th, there was communication from Minister Mtg about the possible all rollout. He woke up at 3 a.m. and he went to TEPCO head office after he met with Mr. Shimizu. And the Prime Minister thought that the pull-out was could never be done. And when President Shimizu came over, the Prime Minister instructed never pull out, and Mr. Shimizu said understood. And Prime Minister thought that was not sufficient, so he visited Tokyo Electric to establish the integrated headquarters, countermeasure headquarters or joint headquarters. In retrospect, he said that headquarters should have been set up much earlier. And around the accident time, the response from the Prime Minister, President, and the government. In terms of the command and control, there was the largest disaster, earthquake, tsunami, and added with the large-scale nuclear accident, all those disasters simultaneously, and it was very difficult to cope with those compounded disasters at the basement of Prime Minister's office. And sometimes the situation turned out the situation happening were outside the assumption of the law, and also to the people fighting against the accident and working at the site. The typical people, he actually paid deep respect to the hard working of the people, and also the deep respect and sincerity expressed by him to the evacuees. And actually, he also looked back at the March 11 incident as the incident which revealed the roots of the disease or ailment. Anyway, to create the nuclear regulation organization with full competency, which are capable of dealing with the similar situation if often will be necessary. By so doing, there will be a better coordination of the offer of advices by the overseas countries. And also, he thought that Japan should head forward for the elimination of nuclear weapons. But anyway, the Prime Minister encouraged us to do the thorough investigation. But the Commission would like to compile the report by the end of June, by whatever we do, the best we can, although there's a serious time pressure exerted upon us. And now we would like to accommodate your questions. I will appoint you. So when the microphone is available, please identify your name and affiliation. The person in the center. Well, Weekly Magazine Kiyobi. My name is Ida, editor. As Mr. Nomura said, well, there was no disclosure of time of the core damage of unit number 2. On the 11th, the expected starting time of a damage of law was indicated, but actually initially there was included in the press releases made at the press conference on the 11th. So if the media would have liked to disclose the information, that could have been done. But anyway, my question is as follows. Yesterday, Mr. Edano and today Prime Minister Khan actually referred to the fact that nuclear accident disaster countermeasure, special countermeasure law was not really encompassing. And maybe the framework of the law may need some revisions or improvement because there are situations occurring outside the assumption of the law. Well, although even if the existing law, if we had another different chief, the cabinet secretary, the situation would have been better, do you think? As actually the reality was beyond the situation assuming the law. What was your observation on this point? Well, I can't really give you a definitive answer. Well, all the sessions at the Commission, official session, were open, and I said here and there in the press conference. Actually, there is no really a right person at the right post, whether the person in a position are capable of the discharging function as expected, or the preparedness in their minds is another question. The head of the organization is given the authorities and a responsibility. Whether that person is capable of discharging those authorities and function is one question. Further on, in hindsight, there was the question after Aceh tsunami in 2004, the Director General of NISA, I think it was 6 months after that tsunami, and NISA said that, when tsunami said that people should be reminded of a Japanese nuclear accident, but he didn't remember. Or the IAEA, NISA's response, or IAEA, was not really clear. And there was no really culture in NISA to actually give the immediate answer to what-if questions. So there was no really tension in their daily activities. Please use the microphone. So right people at the right post. So I think the right person in the right organization is in question.
The second person there, wearing the gray shirt, the gentleman in the suit. Okudaira from TBS television. Today, former Prime Minister Khan said, please look into this further as the investigation commission. Well, what did you think when you heard that? That's something that we are undertaking currently. And I think he's saying that he has great expectations for the achievements. Another question, if you compare the government to the private sector, the progress that you've made as far as the commission, how do you feel about this? The government investigation, of course, needs to be peer reviewed, but from the Diet, we have been tasked to conduct our investigation. And this is the first time in our constitutional government that we've been tasked to do this. But this ought not be the first and only time. This needs to be in order to check the administrative branch, something that we need to continue to do. And that's what I've been mentioning in the Diet time and again. So we are thinking about what it is that we need to announce. And what is your impression having these gentlemen testify? We need to look further into this. We've been tasked to do this by the National Diet. So we are thinking about what it is that's expected of us as a commission. The gentleman on the right-hand side in the front, please.
Thank you. Yamazaki from NHK. There are 3 questions I would like to address to you. Only one? Okay. Okay, I got it. But you can ask 2, but the basic rule is 1 question per person. The information being collected, but there is no they couldn't do the right judgment on the information. They couldn't manage the situation. And I think it became clear that they couldn't manage the situation through the session. And the telephone was not really available at the basement. And there is a limited number of cables available. But including the major disaster, I just wonder about the hardware capabilities of the Prime Minister's the official residence. The Commission members, would you be referring to the hardware capabilities of the Prime Minister's official residence? Well, the lack of design of enough telecommunication when the accident took place, what we think in mind was different from what actually happened. So the reprioritization is necessary. On the gentleman on the left.
I'm from Factor, Miyajima. There have been close to 20 members of the Diet. And Mr. Hirata, who's going to be putting together this report from the House of Councillors, had attended. It's going to take about 1 year to put this law together, and House of Councillors and the House of Representatives have to decide together with these things. So maybe to take more time and to conduct your investigation further and look into the crisis management, and to have Mr. Shimizu and Mr. Yoshida come and testify. I do feel that you need more time. I understand you're trying to finalize the report by the end of the month of June, but I have a feeling that we've come to that point in time where we need to do that. You've said that you can complete your task by the end of June, but that might be difficult. It's exactly as you say. Then will this improve the situation if we have another month or another 2 months to do this? But this was the first time in our constitutional government history that this has happened. Of course, you've made these suggestions, and I do feel that we need to take into account your suggestions, and we'd like to say that we've only received this mandate, and we need to do our activities under that mandate, and we need to have a deadline to finalize our work.
Gentleman on the extreme left. He's a guy from Nikkei. Chairman, related to the previous question raised, you are fighting with the clock. Time is not enough. Today we had completed the Prime Minister's Council session. Are you planning to invite more Diet members in the future, or Mr. Khan will be the last one? Including the private session, how many Diet members have you interviewed, including the private ones? Well, I can't really answer to a question immediately within the remaining limited time. Of course, we have writing the exercise. Commission members are thinking about the possibility, but no comment on this.
The person in the middle, fourth row, with the short sleeve shirt. Miao from Tokyo Shimbun. President Shimizu, do you have any plans to have a hearing with him? And have you asked Mr. Nomura about the NHK press conference matter of yesterday? We are doing our activities on our side. It doesn't mean that we're going to be doing this or not, but if you could please wait and see. As far as yesterday's matter is concerned, you're talking about the meltdown. As far as this is concerned, I think it was Mr. Nomura that talked about this on the 12th of March. I'm sure you're well aware. After Mr. Nakamura, the councillor, had visited during the month of March and the month of April, there's been that kind of nuance that has been expressed by TEPCO. As far as the government and its official viewpoint is concerned, to what extent have they approved what has been said? But IAEA's report reflects the government view. But the meltdown, there is a possibility, and then units 1, 2, 3, there's a likelihood that meltdown has occurred. But this was something that was said in March, but it seems as if people thought this wasn't officially announced until May. And there was, of course, this suspicion that maybe there was a cover-up or something that had taken place, and I do understand that kind of suspicion arising. The gentleman in the middle, please.
On the first row. My name is the freelance reporter. Yesterday's Mr. Edano and today's Prime Minister Kang, and the comment to their statements that they did their best. Mr. Edano, he said if we go back to March 11th, he would have done the same thing. And in what words, what instructions were made, the answer was clear. If there is a system of the recording voice and images, then the enough validation would have been done if all those recording media were available at the Prime Minister House. But there were none there. And maybe the Commission, you could have, maybe your recommendation might include the improvement hardware. Well, that could be one way of expressing our wisdom. Well, the Commission, in principle, opened the whole session in public, and on top of that, we have private hearings and various investigations that those will be included in the report. But in the public, we invite very important person, and we will write down why the specific witnesses were called in the report. But our philosophy will be written down in the report. There could be some criticism on that, but by making this session public and available on the website from 5th session, English interpretation is available so that that could be viewed by the observers overseas. The telephone conversation with NRC. The NRC has a good record of conversation, but I think all those conversations should have been recorded automatically. And sometimes in the meetings, people say there were no minutes of meeting, but at least there should be some notes of the meeting so that all those notes could be compiled. And all those future directions should be supported by the people of the country. But even the English translation is something we should in the future take for granted.
Uesugi, I used to be a journalist. I have a request before the question. Before the Commission began its meeting today, there's something I'd like to have you look into. There is Hakak-san, 7 people with that same name from Yomiuri Shimbun. Mr. Iizuka, there were about 4 people with the same name, Mr. Iizuka, to have them all come in and to have multiple seats allotted to them. Is that something that's allowable? Thank you very much for your very valuable opinion. Yes, please look into this. Why is it that this happens? There were 7 people with the same name, and I don't think that's really highly likely. And the question, former Prime Minister Kan and yesterday's former Chief Cabinet Secretary Edano had said this. The reason why this wasn't relayed to the public was because there was no spokesperson for the Cabinet Office. But after the Prime Minister became Prime Minister, there was a gentleman who became Press Secretary. Mr. Shimomura. And I'm wondering if maybe there's a likelihood of having him come and conduct the hearing. This was the assistant to the spokesperson. No, we won't have such a hearing. Thank you.
The 5th gentleman from the right, the gentleman next to him. Oshika from Asahi Shimbun. In June, you'll be finishing the report. I observed the 5 sessions open to the public. And sometimes there are many questions just to confirm the well-known fact in the various investigation report made by the Government Investigation Commission as such. Compared to all those reports, your commission, at least the questions were not really the smarter, the Mr. Kang and Mr. Edano, the aerial inspection and seawater injection, the total pullout of the TEPCO personnel. But you never ask about the decision-making process at the TEPCO, and NISA, NSC, and METI, what were the process at the initial phase of accident, which were known, were not really questions, but most of your questions were just to confirm already known facts. So I'm scared that your final report were nothing better than the other report. Yes, internally we have discussions. And also the Government Investigation Commission and Mr. Funabashi's Private Sector Investigation Commission actually wrote a similar thing, but I was questioning the evidence. Were there any evidence to support what they wrote in the private sector as well as the government investigation? Of course, I trust what Mr. Ushika said because he wrote a book as such. So I was just wondering whether what they wrote in the report could be justified, verified as evidence, supported by evidence. That's a point of concern. So that's the perspective we take, one of the perspectives we have. So evidence-based comments. So I honestly accept your criticism. What about the question from foreign press? Any question from foreign press? No?
And another thing, we were asked, is this under oath? I was asked, then what would be said? In Japan, is there a testimony given under oath? That was the answer I had given. Yes, please, if you will.
Thomson Reuters. Could I ask a question in English, please? You say you won't comment on asking Shimizu to testify. He was obviously a very important player in this disaster. Why won't you comment on asking him to testify, and will you get him to testify?
Testify っていうプロセスが日本にある。
Well, whether or not there is a process known as testifying here in Japan, I'm not sure about that. So my answer to that would be we have not discussed this at the current time. The lady in the front, please. It's related to that question. Yesterday as well, we asked about this. I am Mori from Asahi Shimbun. With regard to President Shimizu, you have made a request, we understand, to Mr. Shimizu to come and participate in the hearing. It's no comment, which is the same answer I gave to the gentleman. Well, if you have been refused, or you are to be refused, perhaps you have this investigatory authority, and this is something that could be done on the national diet level. Is that correct? Well, to what extent are we given that authority? That's something we'd like to have you look at the law, because we have our practices that we follow, and we have to follow that process that's in place. But you are considering this, are you not? Yes, indeed. Yes, everything is being considered currently.
Nikodo, gentleman from Nikodo. Thank you very much. It was a long time since you appointed me. Nagata from Nikodo. From users of our service, there are so many mails we receive on our net news. One of them said as follows. Before March 11th, Prime Minister Khan should have known the existence of Speedy. Actually, Prime Minister Khan participated in the drilling exercise of the nuclear accident. So many viewers of our service ask, Mr. Khan should have known the existence of the Speedy. There are many others also messages from the users. And also, yesterday, on many occasions, Mr. Edano said, I don't know, but I don't remember. But the Prime Minister actually gave good answers, but I think the questions were not really exhaustive, or you didn't cover every question you could have asked. So if there are any question you didn't ask, how do you deal with this, him? Are you going to invite Mr. Kang again? Well, I can give you comments. The more we heard, the more questions we came up with. So the question is where to stop. So it's quite a difficult question to answer. As a commission, you actually are more or less satisfied with the hearing today? Not exactly so. So there will be some where every option is still open in a way to supplement the hearing of Prime Minister Khan by some other means. I saw many hands. Time is restricted. I think we can accommodate only 2 questions.
Please, the person next to the gentleman. I am Kino, freelance journalist. Regard to resuming the classes in school, regarding that, with regard to Mr. Kosako and other types of special advisors to the cabinet, I'm wondering if you're going to be having them come and give their testimony. And earlier in the question it was asked, it takes about 1 year for such laws to be put together. And I think June is the end of the report to be put together. But this is not a must. So from the members of the commission, maybe you could make a proposal saying you need more time. Is this being considered? Well, that's something that we can't really comment upon. There are very many special advisors that exist, and we are conducting our hearing vis-a-vis those special advisors. As I had said, this report, what sort of significance does it have in terms of its process? That's something we'd like to have the people understand. And if this kind of process can be utilized not just for this matter, but also for other matters, we think that's a good idea. The next person, please.
Miura, Sunday version of Akahata. I think the major political leaders in Prime Minister's office were completed, particularly today with respect to Prime Minister Kang, including reflection. He said that there's no really organization which is capable of handling a severe accident. For the resumption of the operation of nuclear reactors, as a chair, are you in favor or opposed? Well, this is something I can't give comments on. That's the media's role to judge. Look at the fact that this session is open to the public. So you can't really disclose your opinion as a commission in the very historical session. The resumptions of the nuclear reactors during the process is still questionable. But what's been your observation about the resumptions of the reactors? So it relates, well, that doesn't really belong to necessarily the mandate of our commission. So we would like to hear as many opinions as possible, and that's the process we are now considering. Thank you. Last, only one question we can accommodate. Gentleman on the extreme second from the left.
Yes, please, if you will. Ogata from Asahi Shimbun. It's also overlapping with the earlier question regarding former President Shimizu and having him invited here. Prime Minister Khan's hearing has finished, and the most important player came to this hearing, but the TEPCO representative will not be coming, and you said you wouldn't comment on this, but even without President Shimizu's hearing, this report can be put together. And when you think about your investigation commission, perhaps we would question the significance of this commission and its investigation. And will you be making this compulsory, inviting the TEPCO, Mr. Shimizu? former president here. This investigation commission does have that power to compel someone to attend the hearing. If the person is compelled to come, then there might be some things that could be found out. But it seems as if you're hesitant about that, to exercise that power. Well, I can't really comment on that in terms of the judgment that we will be making. And this about compelling someone to make a hearing, we're doing things under Article 12. So if you could please look into that further, you'll understand what we're trying to achieve and carry out here. We do regret we don't have any more time, and we'd like to end our press conference today. Thank you so very much for your participation for a very long time. Tomorrow we'll be having our commission meeting in Fukushima. If you would all kindly attend that, we'd appreciate seeing you there. Thank you very much.